I don't want to put you all on the spot on kind of a separate issue, but it's related, and that is some of Chairman Conyers' most deified people, his heroes, and mine too, jazz musicians, in the 30s were known to smoke marijuana. And Harry Anslinger started a war on marijuana, which was not illegal up to that time, but it was known as something that was basically smoked by or referenced to Hispanics and African Americans, and they made this war on marijuana. A lot of people have been arrested for marijuana and have a record that make it difficult for them to get jobs later on in life because they've got this scarlet letter, and we spend a lot of time in our federal enforcement working on marijuana laws rather than crack and cocaine and meth and heroin. Yesterday, FBI Director Mueller first suggested people have died because of marijuana. He later retracted that and said, no, he didn't know of anybody that's died because of smoking marijuana. But he didn't believe that we should change our policies because he thought it was a gateway drug. Do any of you feel that marijuana maybe should be less of a priority, considering that Mexico is producing so much and causing so many problems on our borders and in our communities, leaving scarlet letters on people for a drug that has become recognized as being less harmful than any of the other drugs that bother America?
I don't remember the last time anyone was arrested in the city of New York for marijuana. I mean, smoking marijuana on the streets of Manhattan, you know, the cop may say, don't do it on my beat, but nobody's getting arrested. There's no question that with the limited resources we have and the heavy strain that we put on law enforcement, that we ought to decriminalize it. I would suggest that we should do things to discourage people from using cigarettes as well as marijuana. But the whole idea that we have a law in the book that we have to go to heavy research to see who's ever been arrested for it means that has to be reviewed and decriminalized.
I think the scarlet letter, I agree with my good friend on this issue of resources, and I think the scarlet letter has hampered many young people who now moving away from music, who had an incident during college years, for example. I've worked with college students who are forbidden from getting loans or other benefits because they've had a conviction or a citation on misdemeanor, or a misdemeanor of sorts on this whole question of marijuana. We have larger fish to fry. I think there are issues dealing with addiction and someone who needs treatment, period, and overuse of anything. I certainly think we have made mistakes in penalizing people for medicinal use. We saw some cases that were absolutely ludicrous, people who were raising it for those purposes, who've been directed to use it. So I think we should open up this whole can of worms. And I would hope that the Justice Department could work with this committee and work with members of Congress and other advocates as to how better to assess the use of marijuana.
Let me just say that I wish that we as elected officials had the courage to deal with difficult issues rather than get whipped into line because of the necessity of reelection. In California, you know, we have medical marijuana. This Attorney General, one of the first things he's done is to back off the feds from interfering in California state law where medical marijuana appears to be helping so many people with cancer and with glaucoma in particular. And so we need to view marijuana a lot differently. I'm glad that FBI Director Mueller backed off of saying marijuana had caused deaths, because no one can credibly represent that that is the case.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the time. If I'm correct, I know I'm about over. I think if you have a conviction for marijuana possession, you can't get a scholarship now. Yes. And that's just unbelievable.
Stupid.
And it affects largely people of color disproportionately who have the convictions and then need the scholarships and don't get them. And what does that do? Put them in a spiral of failure. And that needs to stop. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Legalizing taxing, look at what the facts is. And all this killing and drug dealing to relaxing. Puffing out, facing time in a summer wrapped in plastic. I said legalizing taxing, look at what the facts is. And all this killing and drug dealing to relaxing. Puffing out, phenomenon. I'm a king, come on.